Every single moment of your life, you are one decision away from a completely different existence. Right now, as you sit here, your brain is firing millions of neural connections. Each thought you think, each choice you make, each action you take, is literally rewiring the circuitry of your mind. Most people live their entire lives completely unaware of this extraordinary power they possess. They drift through their days like passengers on a bus, watching life happen to them instead of directing where they want to go. But what if I told you that the next 72 hours could completely rewire patterns you've carried for decades? What if I told you that 3 consecutive days of intentional action could break chains that have held you back for years? You might think that sounds impossible. You might believe that real change takes months, even years. You might be convinced that you are who you are, and that's just how it is. But you would be wrong. Let me share something with you. 3 years ago, I met a man named David. For 15 years, David had been stuck in the same routine, same job he hated, same financial struggles, same relationships that drained his energy, same excuses every single day. He had convinced himself that this was just his lot in life. Then something happened that changed everything. His daughter asked him a simple question, "Daddy, why do you always look so sad?" That question hit him like lightning. In that moment, David realized he wasn't just living a mediocre life. He was modeling mediocrity for his child. He was teaching her that dreams don't come true, that you should settle for less, that life happens to you instead of through you. David made a decision right there in that kitchen. He decided that the next 3 days would be different. Not next month, not next year. The next 3 days. On day 1, he eliminated 3 habits that were keeping him small. He stopped watching television after dinner. He stopped complaining about his job. He stopped making excuses for why he couldn't start his own business. On day 2, he installed 3 new patterns. He got up an hour earlier to work on his business plan. He spent 30 minutes reading books about entrepreneurship. He had meaningful conversations with his daughter instead of zoning out. On day 3, he integrated these changes with his existing strength. He used his natural people skills to start networking. He applied his attention to detail to research his market. He leveraged his years of experience to identify opportunities others missed. What happened next? Within 6 months, David had left his job and started his own consulting firm. Within a year, he had tripled his income. Within 2 years, he was speaking at conferences about business transformation. But here's what matters most. His daughter now sees a father who takes control of his life instead of letting life control him. The difference between David's old life and his new life came down to one thing. He stopped waiting for permission to begin. Most people are waiting for the perfect moment. They're waiting for more money, more time, more energy, more knowledge, more support. They're waiting for external circumstances to change before they're willing to change internally. But successful people understand a fundamental truth. External circumstances are symptoms, not causes. Your bank account is a symptom of your financial habit. Your relationships are symptoms of how you treat people. Your health is a symptom of your daily choices about food, exercise, and rest. Your career is a symptom of the value you provide to others. If you want to change the symptoms, you must change the cause. And the cause is always found in your daily decisions. Right now, raise your hand if you've ever said, "I'll start on Monday." Keep it up if you've ever said, "I'll begin next month." Keep it up if you've ever said, "After the holidays." Keep it up if you've ever said, "When things settle down." Look around. Most of you still have your hands up. This is the evidence that most people are living in tomorrow instead of today. They're always preparing to prepare. They're always getting ready to get ready. But your life is happening right now, not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Every choice you make is casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. When you choose to exercise, you vote for health. When you choose to read instead of watching meaningless entertainment, you vote for growth. When you choose to save money instead of buying things you don't need, you vote for financial freedom. The problem is, most people don't realize they're voting. They think their choices don't matter because each individual choice seems so small. But here's what science has taught us about the human brain. Repetition creates pathways. When you repeat a thought, your brain builds a neural pathway to support that thought. When you repeat an action, your brain builds a neural pathway to support that action. The more you repeat it, the stronger the pathway becomes. Eventually, that pathway becomes a superhighway, and the thought or action becomes automatic. This is why you can drive home from work without consciously thinking about every turn. This is why you can tie your shoes without looking. This is why you can type on a keyboard without hunting for each letter. Your brain has built superhighways for these activities. But here's the crucial point. Your brain doesn't distinguish between positive and negative patterns. It will build superhighways for whatever you repeat. If you repeatedly worry, you'll develop superhighways for anxiety. If you repeatedly complain, you'll develop superhighways for negativity. If you repeatedly make excuses, you'll develop superhighways for victim thinking. The good news is this: you can build new superhighways just as easily as you built the old ones. And the fastest way to build a new superhighway is through intense, focused repetition over a short period of time. This is why the 3-day challenge works. 3 days of intense focus creates enough repetition to begin building new neural pathways. 3 days is long enough to start new patterns, but short enough to maintain intense focus. 3 days is manageable for anyone, regardless of how busy their life might be. But let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this before you answer. Are you living the life you chose, or the life that happened to you? Take a moment, really consider this question. Look at your current circumstance, your job, your relationships, your financial situation, your health, your daily routine. Did you consciously choose these things, or did you just accept what came your way? If you're honest, and honesty is the foundation of all real change, you'll probably admit that much of your current life is the result of default choices, rather than deliberate choices. You took the job that was offered rather than creating the career you want. You settled into relationships that were convenient rather than building relationships that inspire you. You accepted a lifestyle that was easy rather than designing a lifestyle that excites you. But here's what I want you to understand. Every single day, you have the opportunity to make deliberate choices instead of default choices. Every morning when you wake up, you can choose to be intentional about your day, instead of just reacting to whatever happens. Most people live their lives in reaction mode. Something happens, and they react. Someone says something, and they react. They see something on the news and they react. Their entire day is spent responding to external stimuli instead of following an internal direction. Successful people live differently. They wake up with intention. They know what they want to accomplish. They know what kind of person they want to be. They know what values they want to express. And they make choices throughout the day that align with these intentions. This doesn't mean they control everything that happens to them. Nobody can do that. But they control how they respond to what happens to them. And that response determines their results. Let me give you a practical example. 2 people lose their jobs on the same day. Person A sees this as a disaster. They complain about the unfairness. They blame the economy, their boss, their company. They spend their time feeling sorry for themselves and waiting for someone to rescue them. Person B sees the same situation as an opportunity. They use this as motivation to find something better. They update their skills. They network with new people. They consider starting their own business. They take control of their situation instead of being controlled by it. Both people faced the same external circumstance, but they made different choices about how to respond. And those different choices led to completely different results. Person A might spend months unemployed, eventually settling for another job they don't love. Person B might find a better position, start a successful business, or change careers entirely. The difference wasn't what happened to them. The difference was what they chose to do about what happened to them. This is the foundation of all personal transformation. Accepting complete responsibility for your life. Not responsibility for what happens to you. You can't control that. But responsibility for what you do about what happens to you. When you accept this responsibility, something magical occurs. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start being the architect of your destiny. You stop waiting for life to improve and start improving your life. You stop hoping for better days and start creating better days. But accepting responsibility isn't always comfortable. It's easier to blame external forces. It's more comfortable to believe that your problems are someone else's fault. It's less threatening to your ego to think that you're just unlucky, rather than admitting that your choices have created your current situation. However, when you blame external forces, you give away your power. When you say that your problems are someone else's fault, you're also saying that your solutions are in someone else's hands. When you claim to be a victim of circumstances, you're declaring yourself powerless to change those circumstances. But when you accept responsibility, you reclaim your power. When you acknowledge that your choices created your current situation, you're also acknowledging that your choices can create a different situation. When you stop being a victim, you start being a victim. This is why the 3-day challenge is so powerful. It's not just about changing your habits. It's about changing your identity. It's about moving from victim thinking to victor thinking. It's about stepping into your power as the conscious creator of your life experience. But transformation doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. It happens when you stop leaving your life to chance and start living your life on purpose. It happens when you stop making unconscious choices and start making conscious choices. And conscious choice making starts with awareness. You must become aware of the patterns that are currently running your life. You must notice the thoughts you think repeatedly. You must observe the actions you take habitually. You must recognize the results these patterns are creating. Most people are unconscious about their patterns. They think the same thoughts day after day, without noticing. They take the same actions week after week without questioning. They get the same results year after year without connecting the dots. But once you become conscious of your patterns, you can begin to change them. Once you see the connection between your choices and your results, you can start making different choices. Once you understand that you are the author of your life story, you can begin writing a better story. The beautiful truth is this: you don't have to accept the patterns that have defined your past. You don't have to continue the habits that have limited your potential. You don't have to remain the person you've been up until now. You can choose to become someone new. You can choose to develop new patterns. You can choose to create new results. And you can start this transformation right now, in the next 3 days. But transformation requires more than wishful thinking. It requires more than positive affirmation. It requires more than reading inspiring quotes. Real transformation requires action. Specific, deliberate, consistent action. This is where most people fail. They get inspired, but they don't get active. They understand the principles, but they don't apply the practice. They want the results, but they won't do the work. Success doesn't come from understanding. Success comes from application. It comes from taking what you know and turning it into what you do. It comes from closing the gap between your intentions and your action. And the fastest way to close this gap is through what I call compressed transformation. Intense, focused action over a short period of time. This is exactly what the 3-day challenge provides. In the next 3 days, you're going to do something different. You're going to break patterns that have been limiting you. You're going to install patterns that will empower you. You're going to prove to yourself that you have the power to change your life quickly and dramatically. But first, you must understand how success really works. You must understand the principles that govern growth and achievement. You must learn to recognize the patterns that create prosperity and the patterns that create poverty. Because success isn't random. It follows predictable laws, just like a farmer follows the laws of harvest. Success isn't harvested from empty fields. A farmer who wants corn doesn't stand in his field demanding that corn appear. He doesn't complain that the ground is unfair. He doesn't blame the weather for his poor harvest. He understands that corn comes from following a specific sequence. Prepare the soil, plant the seeds, tend the crop, harvest the results. Your life works exactly the same way. Success doesn't come from wishing, hoping, or demanding. It comes from planting the right seeds in the fertile soil of daily action and tending those seeds with consistent habits until they produce the harvest you desire. But here's where most people get confused. They plant seeds randomly. They tend some crops and ignore others. They expect harvest without doing the work of preparation. Then they wonder why their results are inconsistent. Raise your hand if you've ever started a fitness program and quit within 2 weeks. Keep it up if you've ever begun a diet and abandoned it within a month. Keep it up if you've ever bought a book to learn a new skill and never finished reading it. Look around again. The same hands that were up before are up now. This is the evidence that most people treat their lives like amateur gardeners treat their gardens. Lots of enthusiasm at planting time, but no system for the daily tending that creates the harvest. Professional farmers think differently. They understand seasons. They know that spring is for preparation and planting. Summer is for growth and protection. Fall is for harvest. Winter is for rest and planning. They don't fight the seasons. They work with them. Your life has seasons too. There are seasons for learning new skills, seasons for building relationships, seasons for taking calculated risks, seasons for consolidating gains, seasons for rest and reflection. When you understand these seasons and work with them instead of against them, everything becomes easier. But most people are completely unconscious about their seasons. They try to harvest when they should be planting. They rest when they should be working. They take risks when they should be consolidating. They wonder why nothing seems to work out. Successful people recognize their seasons and respond appropriately. When they're in a learning season, they invest heavily in knowledge and skills. When they're in a building season, they focus on creation and growth. When they're in a harvest season, they reap the rewards of their previous efforts. When they're in a planning season, they prepare for the next cycle. Right now, which season are you in? Are you in a planting season where you need to start new habits? Are you in a growing season where you need to tend existing projects? Are you in a harvest season where you need to capitalize on previous investments? Or are you in a planning season where you need to design your next phase? Most of you probably don't know. Most people live their entire lives without ever recognizing what season they're in. They just react to whatever happens without understanding the larger patterns at work. But when you start recognizing patterns, you gain enormous power. You can anticipate what's coming. You can prepare for opportunities. You can navigate challenges more effectively. You can make decisions based on where things are heading instead of just where they are right now. Let me show you how this works with something simple. Daily habit. Most people underestimate the power of small, consistent actions. They want dramatic changes, so they attempt dramatic actions. But dramatic actions are unsustainable. Small, consistent actions compound into dramatic results. If you read just 10 pages of a good book every single day, you'll read 12 to 15 books in a year. That's more books than most people read in a decade. If you save just $5 every day, you'll have almost $2,000 at the end of the year. That's more than most people have in their emergency fund. If you do 20 push-ups every morning, you'll complete over 7,000 push-ups in a year. Your strength and health will transform dramatically. If you call one potential customer every day, you'll make over 300 contacts in a year. Your business will grow exponentially. But here's the key. These small actions must be done consistently. Missing one day isn't a problem. Missing one day never matters. But missing one day makes it easier to miss the next day. And missing 2 days makes it easier to miss 3 days. Before you know it, you've broken the pattern entirely. This is why the 3-day challenge is so crucial. 3 days of consistency begins to establish a pattern. 3 days of success builds momentum. 3 days of small wins creates confidence for bigger challenges. But consistency isn't just about doing the same thing every day. True consistency means staying committed to your growth, even when circumstances change. It means adapting your methods while maintaining your direction. It means being flexible in your approach while being firm in your commitment. Life will test your consistency. Unexpected challenges will arise. Emergencies will demand your attention. Other people will try to derail your progress. This is when most people abandon their new habits and return to their old patterns. But successful people understand that challenges are not interruptions to their growth. Challenges are part of their growth. Every difficulty contains a lesson. Every obstacle contains an opportunity. Every setback contains the seeds of a comeback. When you start thinking about challenges this way, everything changes. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of trying to avoid problems, you start looking for the growth opportunity hidden inside every problem. Let me give you a framework for turning any challenge into a growth opportunity. When you face a difficult situation, Ask yourself 3 questions. What is this teaching me? How can I grow through this? What opportunity is hidden here? The first question helps you extract the lesson. Every challenge teaches you something about yourself, about others, or about life. Maybe it teaches you that you need better boundaries. Maybe it teaches you that you need to communicate more clearly. Maybe it teaches you that you need to prepare more thoroughly. When you focus on the lesson, the challenge becomes valuable instead of just painful. The second question helps you find the growth opportunity. Challenges force you to develop new capabilities. They push you outside your comfort zone. They require you to become stronger, smarter, or more resourceful. When you focus on how you can grow through the challenge, you transform from victim to student. The third question helps you identify hidden opportunities. Most challenges contain opportunities that aren't immediately obvious. A job loss might lead to a better career. A relationship ending might open space for deeper connection. A health scare might motivate lifestyle changes that add years to your life. When you look for hidden opportunities, you often find that your challenges are actually gifts in disguise. But recognizing opportunities isn't enough. You must also have the courage to act on them. Most people see opportunities but fail to seize them. They hesitate, they overthink, they wait for more information. While they're analyzing, someone else is acting. While they're preparing, someone else is succeeding. Successful people have developed what I call opportunity reflex. When they see a chance to advance their goals, they move quickly. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't need complete information. They understand that timing is often more important than planning. This doesn't mean being reckless. It means being decisive. It means trusting your judgment. It means understanding that the cost of missed opportunities is often higher than the cost of imperfect action. How many opportunities have you missed because you were waiting for the perfect moment? How many times have you talked yourself out of taking action because the conditions weren't ideal? How many regrets do you carry because you hesitated when you should have moved? The truth is, perfect conditions never exist. There will always be risks. There will always be unknown. There will always be reasons to wait. But while you're waiting for perfect conditions, life is happening. Time is passing. Opportunities are disappearing. This is why successful people have learned to act in spite of uncertainty. They've learned to make decisions with incomplete information. They've learned to move forward even when they can't see the entire path. But they don't move randomly. They move strategically. They understand that life operates according to predictable patterns, and they position themselves to benefit from these patterns. For example, they know that preparation creates luck. The more prepared you are, the more opportunities you'll recognize, and the better equipped you'll be to capitalize on them. They know that relationships create possibilities. The stronger your network, the more doors will open for you. They know that reputation creates momentum. The better your reputation, the easier it becomes to achieve your goals. These aren't mysterious principles. They're predictable patterns that govern success in every field. When you understand these patterns and align your actions with them, success becomes much more likely. But most people work against these patterns instead of with them. They neglect preparation and then wonder why they're unlucky. They ignore relationships and then wonder why doors don't open. They damage their reputation and then wonder why progress is difficult. The 3-day challenge is designed to help you align with success patterns instead of working against them. On day 1, you'll eliminate patterns that are sabotaging your success. On day 2, you'll install patterns that accelerate your progress. On day 3, you'll integrate these new patterns with your existing strengths. But before you can install new patterns, you must understand why the old patterns exist. Most people have patterns that serve them in some way, even when those patterns ultimately limit them. Understanding the hidden benefits of your limiting patterns is crucial for lasting change. For example, procrastination often serves to protect you from the fear of failure. If you never complete the project, you never have to face the possibility of rejection. Complaining often serves to get attention and sympathy from others. If you're always struggling, people will try to help you. Making excuses often serves to protect your self-image. If your failures are someone else's fault, you don't have to question your capabilities. These patterns have benefits, which is why they're so hard to break. but the benefits are short-term, while the costs are long-term. Procrastination protects you from immediate fear, but it prevents you from achieving your dreams. Complaining gets you temporary attention, but it repels the kind of people who could help you succeed. Making excuses protects your ego today, but it prevents you from growing tomorrow. Breaking these patterns requires replacing their benefits with better benefits. Instead of procrastination protecting you from failure, you need completion to provide you with learning. Instead of complaining getting you sympathy, you need problem solving to get you results. Instead of excuses protecting your ego, you need responsibility to give you power. This is where most people struggle. They try to eliminate negative patterns without installing positive replacements. But nature abhors a vacuum. When you remove an old pattern, you must fill the space with a new pattern, or the old pattern will return. The key is to make the new pattern more rewarding than the old pattern. The new behavior must provide greater benefits than the old behavior. This is why the 3-day challenge focuses on both elimination and installation. You're not just removing limiting patterns, you're replacing them with empowering patterns. But lasting change requires more than just changing your actions. It requires changing your identity. You must see yourself differently. You must think of yourself as the kind of person who takes action instead of procrastinating. You must think of yourself as the kind of person who solves problems instead of complaining about them. You must think of yourself as the kind of person who takes responsibility instead of making excuses. When your identity changes, your behavior changes automatically. When you see yourself as disciplined, discipline becomes natural. When you see yourself as courageous, courage becomes normal. When you see yourself as successful, success becomes inevitable. But most people try to change their behavior while keeping their old identity. They try to act successful while still thinking of themselves as failures. They try to be disciplined while still seeing themselves as lazy. They try to take risks while still believing they're victims. This creates internal conflict. Your actions and your identity are pulling in opposite directions. Eventually, your identity wins. You return to behaving in ways that match how you see yourself. This is why so many people fail to maintain positive changes. They focus on changing what they do instead of changing who they are. They modify their actions without transforming their identity. The 3-day challenge addresses this by helping you prove to yourself that you are capable of dramatic change. When you successfully complete 3 days of new patterns, you begin to see yourself different. You start to believe that you are the kind of person who follows through on commitments. You start to trust that you can change your life when you decide to change your life. But this transformation doesn't happen automatically. It requires you to pay attention to your successes and consciously update your self-image. It requires you to notice when you act in alignment with your new identity and celebrate those moments. It requires you to catch yourself thinking old thoughts about your limitations and consciously replace them with new thoughts about your capabilities. Most people are much better at noticing their failures than their successes. They remember every mistake but forget every victory. They focus on evidence that confirms their limitations while ignoring evidence of their potential. Successful people do the opposite. They pay attention to their wins. They celebrate their progress. They collect evidence of their capability. They build a mental portfolio of proof that they can achieve their goals. This isn't about being unrealistic or ignoring areas that need improvement. It's about being balanced in your self-assessment. It's about giving equal attention to your strengths and your weaknesses. It's about building confidence alongside competence. But confidence without competence is arrogance, and competence without confidence is waste. You need both. You need to develop real skills and abilities, and you need to believe in your capacity to use those skills and abilities effectively. The next 3 days will give you both. You'll develop new competencies by practicing new behaviors, and you'll build new confidence by proving to yourself that you can change rapidly and dramatically. But first, you must confront the patterns that have been sabotaging your success. You must face the excuses, the procrastination, and the blame that have kept you stuck. You must understand why these patterns exist and how to eliminate them permanently. Your greatest enemy isn't external circumstances. It's the voice in your head that whispers reasons why you can't succeed. Right now, as I'm talking about transformation, that voice is already active. It's telling you that 3 days isn't enough time for real change. It's reminding you of previous attempts that didn't work out. It's generating a list of reasons why this time won't be different. That voice has a name: self-sabotage. And it's more dangerous than any external obstacle you'll ever face, because it lives inside your own mind, speaks in your own words, and uses your own fears against you. Self-sabotage shows up in 3 primary forms: excuses, procrastination. These aren't just bad habits. They're sophisticated defense mechanisms designed to protect you from the discomfort of growth. But in protecting you from discomfort, they also protect you from success. Let me ask you something, and I want honest answer. Raise your hand if you've ever said "I don't have time" when what you really meant was "I don't want to make time." Keep it up if you've ever said "I can't afford it" when what you really meant was "I don't want to prioritize it." Keep it up if you've ever said "I can't afford it" when what you really meant was "I'm afraid to try." Those hands represent the honest people in this room. The rest of you are still lying to yourselves. Here's the brutal truth. Every excuse you make is a choice you're making. When you say you don't have time, you're choosing to spend your time on other things. When you say you can't afford something, you're choosing to spend your money on other things. When you say you're not ready, you're choosing comfort over growth. There's nothing wrong with these choices, but call them what they are. Don't pretend you're a victim of circumstances when you're actually the author of your decisions. Excuses feel good because they remove responsibility. They let you stay where you are without feeling bad about it. They protect your ego from the sting of failure, but they also prevent you from ever succeeding. Every excuse is a decision to remain stuck. Every justification is a choice to stay small. Every rationalization is a vote for mediocrity. Procrastination works differently, but serves the same purpose. Instead of saying you can't do something, procrastination says you'll do it later. This feels better than an outright excuse because you're not denying your capability, you're just delaying action. But procrastination is time theft. Every day you delay taking action toward your goals is a day stolen from your future self. Every week you postpone starting that project is a week your competition gets ahead of you. Every month you wait for better conditions is a month of missed opportunity. The cost of procrastination isn't just delayed results, it's compound interest working against you instead of for you. While you're delaying, others are acting. While you're preparing to prepare, others are improving through practice. While you're waiting for perfect conditions, others are succeeding in imperfect conditions. Blame is the most sophisticated form of self-sabotage because it sounds logical. You can always find something or someone to blame for your lack of progress. The economy, your boss, your family, your circumstances, your past, your genetics, your education, your location. There's never a shortage of external factors to point to, but blame is a trap. When you blame external factors for your problems, you're also giving external factors control over your solutions. You're saying that your success depends on things you can't control instead of things you can control. Successful people think differently. They focus on what they can influence instead of what they can't control. They take responsibility for their responses even when they're not responsible for their circumstances. They understand that blame feels good temporarily, but costs enormously long term. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people isn't talent, luck, or circumstances. It's their relationship with discomfort. Unsuccessful people avoid discomfort at all costs. They choose the temporary comfort of excuses, procrastination, and blame over the temporary discomfort of action, accountability, and growth. Successful people have learned to be comfortable with discomfort. They understand that all growth happens outside your comfort zone. They've trained themselves to move toward challenges instead of away from them. They've developed the discipline to do what needs to be done whether they feel like it or not. This isn't about being superhuman. This is about developing specific mental muscles through specific mental exercise. Just like physical muscles grow stronger through resistance training, mental muscles grow stronger through discomfort training. The 3-day challenge is intensive discomfort training. For 72 hours, you're going to choose growth over comfort. You're going to choose action over delay. You're going to choose responsibility over blame. But you can't just eliminate negative patterns. You must replace them with positive patterns. This is the STOP, Start, Continue method. First, identify 3 patterns you must stop immediately. These are behaviors that are actively sabotaging your success. Maybe it's checking your phone first thing in the morning, instead of starting your day with intention. Maybe it's complaining about problems instead of solving them. Maybe it's staying up late watching entertainment instead of getting restorative sleep. Choose 3 patterns that you know are holding you back. Be specific. Don't say stop being lazy. Say stop hitting the snooze button. Don't say stop wasting time. Say stop watching television after 8 p.m. The more specific you are, the easier it will be to change. Next, identify 3 patterns you must start immediately. These are behaviors that will accelerate your progress toward your goals. Maybe it's reading for 30 minutes every morning. Maybe it's exercising for 20 minutes every day. Maybe it's calling 1 potential customer every afternoon. Again, be specific. Don't say start exercising. Say do 20 push-ups immediately after breakfast. Don't say start learning. Say read 10 pages of an educational book before checking email. The more specific your new patterns, the more likely you are to maintain them. Finally, identify 3 patterns you must continue. These are things you're already doing well that you want to reinforce and expand. Maybe you're already good at keeping your commitments to others. Now you need to keep commitments to yourself. Maybe you're already disciplined about work. Now you need to be disciplined about personal development. Building on existing strengths is often easier than creating entirely new habits. When you leverage what's already working, you create momentum more quickly. But having a plan isn't enough. You need a system for implementation. You need to design your environment to support your new patterns and make your old patterns more difficult. If you want to read more, put books in visible places and put your phone in another room. If you want to exercise, lay out your workout clothes the night before and remove obstacles to getting started. If you want to eat healthier, fill your kitchen with good food and remove tempting junk food. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. You can't rely on motivation to carry you through difficult moments. You must engineer success by making good choices easier and bad choices harder. Day 1 of your challenge is about disruption. You're going to break 3 limiting patterns that have been keeping you stuck. This isn't about perfection, it's about interruption. You're proving to yourself that you can change your behavior when you decide to change your behavior. Expect resistance. Your brain likes predictability, even when that predictability is limiting you. When you break established patterns, your brain will generate discomfort, doubt, and desire to return to the old way. This is normal. This is expected. This doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Discomfort is information, not instruction. It tells you that you're moving outside your comfort zone, which is exactly where growth happens. Don't let discomfort convince you to quit. Let it confirm that you're heading in the right direction. Day 2 is about installation. You're going to implement 3 new empowering habits. Start small. Make the new behaviors so easy that it would be harder to skip them than to do them. Build momentum through small wins rather than trying to change everything dramatically at once. Remember, you're not just changing your actions, you're changing your identity. Pay attention to moments when you act in alignment with your new identity. Notice when you choose discipline over comfort. Celebrate when you follow through on commitments to yourself. Collect evidence that you are becoming the person you want to be. Day 3 is about integration. You're going to combine your new patterns with your existing strengths. Look for ways to stack new habits onto established routines. Connect new behaviors to existing triggers. Create systems that make your new patterns automatic rather than requiring constant conscious effort. By the end of 3 days, you'll have proven something crucial to yourself. You have the power to change your life rapidly and dramatically. You'll have evidence that transformation doesn't take years. It takes decision followed by action. But the 3 days are just the beginning. Real transformation happens when you extend these new patterns beyond the initial challenge. The goal isn't to change for 3 days. It's to use 3 days to launch changes that last for years. This requires daily disciplines that become part of your identity. Every morning, spend 10 minutes planning your day with intention, instead of just reacting to whatever happens. Every evening, Spend 10 minutes reviewing your progress and planning improvements for tomorrow. Track your wins, not just your failures. Most people are experts at noticing what goes wrong, but amateurs at recognizing what goes right. Keep a record of your daily victories, no matter how small. This builds confidence and momentum for bigger challenges. Connect with people who support your growth, rather than people who discourage your ambition. Your environment includes the people you spend time with. Successful people surround themselves with others who believe in possibility, rather than limitations. Invest in yourself consistently. Read books that expand your thinking. Attend events that inspire your growth. Learn skills that increase your value. The best investment you can make is in your own development, because it's the only investment that can never be taken away from you. But most importantly, understand that this is about more than personal success. When you transform your life, you give others permission to transform theirs. When you break limiting patterns, you show others that change is possible. When you choose growth over comfort, you inspire others to make the same choice. Your transformation isn't just about you, it's about everyone whose life you touch. Your children, your family, your friends, your colleagues, your community. They're all watching to see if real change is possible. They're all hoping that someone will prove that people can break free from limiting circumstances and create extraordinary lives. That someone is you, right now. Starting with the next decision you make. Remember what I told you at the beginning? Every single moment of your life, you are one decision away from a completely different existence. That moment is now. That decision is before you. That different existence is within your reach. You know what you need to do. You know what patterns you need to break. You know what habits you need to start. You know what kind of person you want to become. The only question left is this: will you begin today, or will you keep waiting for tomorrow? 3 days, 72 hours, 4,320 minutes. That's all it takes to prove to yourself that you have the power to rewire your mind and transform your life. Your future self is counting on the decision you make right now. Don't let that person down. The 3-day challenge starts now.